get to our current ladies and see what their thoughts are on veterans. But ladies first, I just have to say, you know, sometimes viewers, I walk in, I don't know what the ladies are going to have on, but today they have rocked this stage. I am telling you. For the veterans. Y'all look so amazing. Patriotic colors. You know, this is really trivial, but sometimes people ask, do y'all talk about what you're going to wear ahead of time? We really don't.
No,
the Lord just put together this fashion ensemble, so good job. Good job. All right, back to the really important stuff, veterans. Anybody know of that, or anybody who have a special kind of message they want to say to somebody who's a veteran out there today?
Thank you.
Yeah,
The biggest thank you. You know, my dad was a veteran.
Was he?
Yeah, he actually was in World War II, and he worked on the front lines as a nurse.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do anything at home like that, but it's funny that that's what he did. And, you know, it just puts something in us to understand that the freedom that we have and that we enjoy every day, it came with a cost.
Yes.
That it wasn't free. I mean, it's like what Jesus did on the cross for us. They did for us for the freedoms that we have here. And for that, I'm internally grateful.
I love when people say freedom isn't free, because it really isn't.
Right.
Somebody paid for it, you know, and we've talked about my dad many times, your papa, but he served in World War II and the Korean War, and he taught us, you better love your country, you better stand at attention when they play that national anthem, you better respect what men and women have done ahead of time, and to vote. And sometimes that's a hard message to get across to millennials and younger people, and maybe even older people that are out there today and not sure, you know, how you feel about our country today.
Well, because sadly, most of that greatest generation isn't with us as much. And so our children aren't being taught quite the same way that some other generations have been. But one thing I love about my kids' school is that they have a Veterans Day celebration. And they have a big program that they do every year on Veterans Day. And of course, my favorite part of it, it's an hour-long program with lots of singing. They invite veterans from the community, and they ask us to send in pictures of all of our relatives or special people in our lives that are veterans, and they show them up on the flagpole. But my favorite part is when they play the songs from each of the armed forces. And these men and women stand up and everybody claps. I cry every time when they do, but I just love it. Mary Grace was singing in preparation the other day for the show, and I just get teary every time.
That's so powerful. And I was thinking about you saying, you know, freedom isn't free. And John 15:13 came to mind. It says, greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends. And I think if we look at our military people and really the true sacrifice that they're making, I mean, when they make that oath to serve us, there's a great possibility they may lose their life for our freedom. And so, this led me to doing a lot of research and thinking about PTSD. And like you said, it's not necessarily a wounded veteran where they're missing a limb or there's some type of physical trauma, but it's the emotional trauma these men and women go through that serve. And it led me to this project, this website. It was Wounded Warriors, homes for wounded warriors. And there was a powerful video and testimony of this young man. Same thing, he wasn't injured physically, but he went through so much emotional, mental trauma. He was suicidal, and it was so neat to see how this community got around him. And I think there's a statistic that said from 2007 to now that over 300,000 troops, military people that served, are homeless and suffer from PTSD. And to see the hope that it gave this man for a fresh start. And I wanted to give our viewers the website. It's www.woundedwarriorhomes.org. And it's just a way we can get involved, whether we can support and volunteer on a local level or financially support. We really need to love on our troops and show them how grateful we are for our freedom and the sacrifice they made.
My brother served in the military for 27 years. And my best friend was in Desert Storm. And it's always amazing to me to see how she still has issues, illnesses that came about as a result of, she has a parasite. I was clueless about parasites, but it's something that she contracted in Desert Storm that she will deal with for the rest of her life. And so it's a great sacrifice. And you're right, Barbara, it's not free. There's a cost, and that cost is still being paid even today. Every day that we have freedom, we need to remember that there are men and women that are serving our country so that we can have this freedom.
And it's not just them, it's their families.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone is paying this price for our freedom. You know, there's a lot of women and men who see their families, they leave for a year at a time, their children are born and they're not there. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifice that comes along with that freedom.
I have a really good friend from college who was also went over to Iraq, and it hurt his marriage. He came back, and their marriage didn't, kind of survive him being gone. And I cared about him, or I still do, so much, and it just broke my heart that here he was fighting for our country and doing all this, and he comes back, and his family life is just a mess. And so there's so much that they do, and I just think I take it for granted way too much.
What can we do to help our children and grandchildren have that kind of patriotism and appreciation for our country and gratitude for our veterans? What are you all doing practically and tangibly at home?
A little thing that we do, which is not a big thing at all, but we often have lunch on Sundays at Jason's Deli down the street from our church. Well, in the same strip center that Jason's Deli is an armed services recruitment center. There's the Marines, there's the Army, they have got a number of different buildings. So often we will see men and women come in their military dress, in fatigues and whatnot. And so we are teaching our children, and hopefully they've learned a little bit, but anytime they see anyone who is dressed, and you notice that they're part of the armed services, we encourage them to go up and just say thank you for your service.
That's awesome.
And it's just a reminder, it starts the conversation for us to remind our kids about freedom and the cost of freedom and what that looks like, but also you think about how many people have never been thanked, and especially during Vietnam, how many people came home and were shunned made fun of and made to feel so low when they'd given such sacrifice.
And they're embarrassed. Some of the Vietnam vets are embarrassed to say that they served in Vietnam, which they should not be embarrassed. They were serving our country. Whether a war is a right thing or not, that's not what our place is.
Right.
As American citizens, we're here to love them, to pray for them, and to be grateful for their service.
Yeah, many years ago, we wrote a song called For the Veterans of the USA. And it actually, we're not even a country group, and it went like #1. We were beating out all these people. It was really, but it wasn't because of us. It was because the people in America knew what was right. And while we were doing the video, we had one of the men, we brought veterans in with us to do the music video for it. And he was coming up, and his eyes, he was crying, but he says, we veterans, we don't cry, our eyes sweat. And he was a man, but he said, I just want to say thank you for letting us know that we matter, that you see. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do, and I think that's so powerful, is just say thank you. Acknowledge what they've given up, acknowledge what they did, and we are still living what they were fighting for. We still, every day, get to experience that freedom because of what they did. So,
Carolyn, you are our resident singer. You know that. And you know that you can break out in song at any time that the Lord impresses upon you to do that.
I know.
Acapella. What do you think?
Well, you know that song, it just said, and they can go, I could get it for you so you could
just
put it
a
up.
line or two.
It just says, the red is for the blood, the blue is for the bruise, the white is for the eyes that fought for me and you. So we lift our hearts today, filled with gratitude and praise for the veterans of the USA.
Thank you for doing that. You're so precious. I mean, when God has given us somebody like Carolyn Pankala on our panel, we just have to be blessed by that. So thank you. That gave me chills. And I always tell everybody, I'm not a crier, but you can make me cry. If anybody can do it, that's precious. What else? What else are you teaching your children at home?
I think one of the coolest things when I was Mrs. Florida, I was able to ride in one of the parades, and it was so neat. It was almost like I felt like we were back in the day. It was so nostalgic when all the veterans, they got out and they put on their uniform and they just marched with pride, and just to see all the little children waving their American flags and saluting, and the elderly people, and this was right before my grandmother passed, and to watch her stand up at attention and salute these veterans and show them we honor you, we celebrate you, we appreciate you. So I would encourage all of us, bring our children out to these parades that really celebrate our veterans, celebrate our armed forces, the people that make that sacrifice, and show them that honor. You know, when the national anthem is sung, stand at attention. You know, I know that's a big controversy right now, this Colin Kaepernick thing, and I get what he's wanting to do, and I respect that. But I also think we still need to respect the flag. We need to respect our servicemen as well.
Thank you for that.
And my kids are a little bit older, and I'm telling you, I don't know if I did a great enough job. So tonight, I'm going to go home. And They say they see an armed service person.
Good.
You know,
Well,
because
it's never too late. We can do that too. I mean,
that's
I
right.
send my kids
Yeah.
on, but I certainly.
yeah, I mean, they at their school too. There's also a Veterans Day, so I do know that they're you know getting it a little bit, but I don't know. I'll check on it.
You know, my mama's little boyfriend, my dad's been gone for 5.5 years, but her little boyfriend, Bernie, he served in World War II, and he was over just the other night for dinner, and he was telling us about how he would knock on doors. He was on the front lines, Carolyn. He was there.
Yeah.
And he would knock on doors, and before they would go in, they would see if any women or children were in there before they would throw in a grenade. Or I mean, he, and I'm listening to him tell this, and you can see almost a faraway look. You know, he goes back in his mind to doing
Right.
that. But boy, what, you know, he's 93 years old. He is one of those, the greatest nation, I mean, the greatest generation in our nation. But we just need to be thanking them and praising God for those men and women.
Periodically, we've gone into restaurants. Kristen, we do that as well.
Good.
If we see someone, we always say thank you. And of course, the veterans that we know, we always send them messages and say thank you for your service, acknowledging those that are in church with us and things like that. But my husband has this thing that he does periodically. And, you know, if we're in a restaurant and there's veterans there having lunch, he might just take their check and pay, you know, for their meal or something like that. Just as a way to say, and they don't know us, and it doesn't really matter, but just to have somebody acknowledge the service that you've given and say thank you.